I am a sucker for nostalgia. All around my house I keep trinkets and mementos from my childhood. Hell, if you watch this channel, you'll know I'm nostalgic about things I didn't even have, like this Game Boy Advance which I modded recently. Anyone who grew up around the same time as me may have different things that they're nostalgic about, different things that they enjoyed as a child. But there's one thing that everyone enjoyed as a child: Pokemon. When I was younger, I had Pokemon Red, a game which when I was 10 years old I played within an inch of its life, but I haven't played it since. Somewhere along the way I lost my copy of Pokemon Red.
Yeah, that's not my one. It's his. It's not mine.
The fact that I only realised when I made my Game Boy Advance and was looking for a game to play on it. So I did what any sane 30-something would do. When my sisters asked me what I wanted for my birthday this year, I said Pokemon Blue. Because I decided for the first time in 25 years, I was going to play this classic game. And this is how it went. It's hard to not be completely overwhelmed with nostalgia when you hear this music for the first time in years, and I am not ashamed to say that I spent way too long sat just listening to this tune. But I didn't buy this game to listen to the tune, I bought it to play it. But first I had to check out the save that was already in the file, and the guy called himself Gary. Who goes with the name Gary? That's the bad guy. I couldn't help but have a cheeky glance at his Pokemon, and of course he went for Charizard. But now it was my turn to start my adventure, and it took me a while to come up with an imaginative name for my character. And when it came to my rival's name, I was able to be even more imaginative. Right. Oh, Christ. The adventure. Oh, no! Oh, I have to go through all that setup again. Yeah. That was a quick reminder of how cartridges work. I had to do it all again. But soon I was back in the game and wandering around my home in Pallet Town, wondering where the hell my mum's bedroom is. You ready for this? Professor Oak is about to make an appearance. When I was younger, I remember playing this game with Charmander and Squirtle, but I don't remember ever using Bulbasaur, so it was time to show Bulbasaur some love. As I was playing, I remembered that it was St. Patrick's Day, so Bulbasaur got the nickname Clover, and I spent my afternoon playing Pokemon, and it was great.
Yeah, there you go, take that, dickbag.
And I caught a Pidgey called Flap Flap. A few days later, me and a friend were due to meet up because we were travelling to London, and I turned up early, so naturally, I went into a sketchy bus stop and started playing Pokemon. And this is where the nostalgia really kicked in, sitting down at a bus stop, playing a Pokemon game. Not looking at my phone, but playing a game. And it was really cool. I came across a Pikachu, which is like the de facto Nintendo mascot, so I had to catch it and naturally called it Mario. And I also caught a Caterpie, which I eventually want to become a Butterfree, so naturally I called it Butterboy. If you know, you know. As I'm watching my daughter rapidly grow in front of my eyes, I can't help but wonder what her childhood is going to be like and how might it be different from mine. And there was this beautiful moment where I met up with my friends and I got in the back of the car, I loaded up the Game Boy and I started catching Pokemon, and it just unlocked so many childhood memories of me doing this exact thing on long car journeys with my parents, and I just couldn't help but smile. And I hope that my daughter has the same experience when we go on family holidays and long car journeys, that she'll spend her time in the car playing games or reading books or listening to music and just enjoying those moments the same way that I enjoyed them. I played my original copy of Pokemon Red so much that at this point in time, I think even if I found it, I wonder if it would work. But for that reason, like I'm sure is the case for many of you, the beginning of these games just feel like second nature. And before I knew it, I'd beaten Brock in the first gym and was one badge down. I saw a Jigglypuff, which, funnily enough, is the name I give my stomach, so I caught it and called it Tum Tum. And I'll be honest with you, I was in my element, battling away, watching my Pokemon evolve, and just making my way through the game. Eventually, and importantly, I found an Abra which I caught and called Neo because it was going to help me expose a glitch in the Matrix. You see, anyone who played these games when they came out will remember that kid in the playground who said, "I've got a Mew," even though there was no way of getting a Mew in the game. You had to go to special events, I think, and I don't even know how many 10-year-olds here in the UK went to those events. Basically, no one had a Mew. That was until one day a friend of mine showed me his Mew. He had it, and I had no idea how he got it. So before I started this playthrough, I decided to have a look online and find out how do you catch Mew, and basically you can catch it by getting the game to glitch. Although it is a rather convoluted glitch. Basically, on the first Tuesday of the month, you have to get out of bed left foot first before spinning on the spot. You then have to down a pint of water, recite the national anthem of Sweden before getting back into bed right foot first. Okay, maybe it's not quite that, but it's basically as convoluted as that. Now, I'm not going to go into this in great detail because there's loads of guides on how to do this on the internet, but basically if you teleport away from a specific encounter before it starts, which is where the Abra comes in, and then battle certain players afterwards, you can make the game start a random encounter with Mew. And amazingly, I got it to work.
Hell yeah, there we go.
And a few Pokeballs later, Mew was mine.
Come on! There we go.
Now, of course, due to the dubious means in which I acquired the Mew, it seemed only appropriate that it got the nickname Glitch. And then I got greedy. I thought to myself, what happens if I do this glitch with different battles? What Pokemon would randomly spawn then? And things got a bit silly. It started with a Staryu, which I caught and called Wetfoot, and a Cubone, which I caught and called Snooker. But things seriously ramped up when I encountered not one, but 2 level 7 Nidoqueens, one of which I caught and called Slay. I encountered a Rhyhorn, which I called Stomp, a Scyther, which got the name Scratch, a Lapras, which was appropriately called Da Fuck.
What? No way!
And then perhaps the one I got the most giddy about, a level 7 Gengar.
That's tasty.
Which naturally got the nickname Boom. I even encountered a second Mew and it seemed rude not to catch it and give it the name Mewtwo. Then I thought, what happens if I battle and then I battle Misty? What would come up then? Which is when this guy turned up. I'm not going to break down the lore of this Pokemon here. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, I'm sorry, you just don't. But everyone in the playground when I was younger knew about Missing No, and I had no idea you could encounter it here. I decided not to catch Missing No here and just crack on with the game. But who knew you could encounter Missing No so early? I mean, probably plenty of people on the internet. But I didn't know. For a little while, I worried about whether or not finding Pokemon like this and catching them was in the spirit of the game, but then Missing No turned up. Because Missing No reminded me that glitches were a big part of Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue when I was a kid. Swapping stories in playgrounds with friends about how to expose these little hacks in the game was so important to how much I enjoyed those games when I was younger. And I know that playing the game the way it's intended and finding these Pokemon as the game intended is hugely rewarding, but I cannot tell you how much fun I had exposing this little glitch and seeing what came up. I was giddy the entire time. I knew that this was going to be a nostalgia ride, but I hadn't appreciated how big a ride it was going to be. Oh yeah, and I did just casually beat the second gym in there. Yeah, no biggie. I decided that for my experience of this game, I wasn't going to use these glitch Pokemon, Mew aside. I was going to go and find these Pokemon in the wild. That was before I went to the Pokemon daycare, dropped off Neo and decided, nope, Wetfoot is joining the team. As I went to progress the story and get on the SSN, I decided to check my inventory and I noticed that Missing No had duplicated the hell out of TM45, which is Shockwave. That's a rubbish TM to duplicate. So I promptly dumped them all in my PC before getting on the boat. I went from room to room around the boat battling different trainers and then I came across my rival. Now this was a problem because a lot of my Pokemon were severely weakened from the previous battling I'd done and I'd run out of all of my healing items. And I don't know how I did it, but somehow, some way, I managed to beat him.
Get in. Whoa, in your face, dickbag.
But then I got greedy and went into a room to try and retrieve an item with Wetfoot at half life, and it didn't go well.
Oh, bollocks. Oh, no. Oh, no. Right. Yeah. Okay. That's upsetting.
my first loss. But no worries, I'm going to pick myself back up, get into the gym, and get my third gym badge. I just need to solve this simple puzzle first. Yes, I did struggle with this puzzle in a game which I completed as a 10-year-old.
What is the puzzle? What is it? Right. Okay. No.
I struggled a lot. But eventually I beat the gym, I went and got myself a bicycle, I got the HM for Flash, which I taught to Mario, and I made my way through the rock tunnel. Now, getting the bike was a huge deal because when I started playing this game, it felt incredibly slow, and it's funny how over the years I've got used to faster and faster paced games, and this game forced me to be a lot slower, and at first I didn't appreciate it, which I'm sure says something about modern attention spans, and we can probably say something about smartphones here, but slowly I started to appreciate the slower pace of this game and actually found it relaxing. The other thing to say is that this game doesn't really tell you anything. It doesn't give you any guidance on how to play it, which seems very different to games these days. I got the HM for Flash, but not before trying to get into Rock Tunnel and being greeted with darkness. And I didn't know where it was, I just had to go and search parts of the game I hadn't been to yet, which I managed to figure out when I was 10 years old, so part of enjoying these games when I was younger would have been discovering how to progress the story. There's something quite refreshing about the lack of hand-holding, although I'm sure when I was younger I probably found it quite frustrating at points. Now, I could go into a great deal of detail about how every part of this game panned out, but I'm certain there must be a ton of videos of people doing that exact thing online. But I don't think this video is about that. I think this video is about how much I enjoyed playing this game from my childhood. I was playing it whenever I could, on the sofa, in bed, in the garden, in a random woods, on the swings whilst I was meant to be looking after my daughter in the park. Basically, any moment I'd normally be doom scrolling on my phone was replaced with playing Pokemon Blue. And I was having a whale of a time. My team continued to grow when I caught a Vulpix and called it Jalapeno, and I stole this Eevee which I called Stevie. Quite clever, that one. And I also caught this Snorlax, which got the name Sleepy Joe. Unfortunately, I had to make room for these Pokemon, so it was bye-bye Flap Flap, bye-bye Mario, and bye-bye Butterboy. But as my team grew, I continued to battle on and my team started to evolve. Whenever I had the opportunity, I took out the evil Team Rocket team, who all looked like crackheads. I took every opportunity to put my rival in his place, and I defeated gym after gym after gym after gym after gym. Which was also the bad guys, the last one. I knew that going into this playthrough of the game, and I don't remember how I reacted when I was 10, but I am sure that that would have blown my mind. And after hours of play, beating 8 gym leaders and disbanding Team Rocket, I had reached the finale of the game. It was time to take on the Elite Four. The 4 greatest trainers in the whole world. Or just in Kanto, but back then they didn't know that. Back then they thought the whole world. As I made my way through each and every one of the Elite Four members, every single member of my team shined. Sleepy Joe kicked ass. Glitch kicked ass. Clover kicked ass. Jalapeno kicked ass. Stevie kicked ass. And Wetfoot kicked so much ass. I just realised I said ass every single time rather than ass, which means I've been watching too much American YouTube. My bad. Quite simply, I demolished the Elite Four, and I was finally the champion of the game. Except I'm not actually, which isn't a surprise to you. Dickbag beat me to the punch, so I had to beat Dickbag one last time, which I was more than happy to do. And as I made short work of my rival, my team finally made it into the Hall of Fame. And as I sat back and watched the credits roll, I couldn't believe how much fun I'd had with a game I'd last played 25 years ago. I worry that thinking back to what you perceive to be the glory days can stop you enjoying the days that are here in front of you right now. But playing through Pokemon Blue made me stop and think about why I enjoyed those experiences so much as a child. The puzzle solving, the glitches, the rare finds, the lack of distraction and just being immersed in the story. I don't want to overstate the importance of playing a Pokemon game, but it really gave me the opportunity to think a lot about how my daughter's future might look. That, and I just had a lot of fun. And with that, it was the end. And that's the end of that, I guess. Play that next, maybe.